I mean, let me see, how should I start this? I just, I haven't made a video. I haven't made a video in a while, but I kind of want to make a little follow-up video to the previous video that I made. This is probably going to be my last video in regards to addressing the whole MGTOW deception, the whole MGTOW propaganda that's happening. And I need to explain this very clearly. But for you males out here that do subscribe yourself as a MGTOW, that do have recognized that there is a problem between male and female interaction, that the whole formula is off. You are being deceived. You're being led to another program, so that way you become inactive as an individual. You see, because there's very many different permutations of this, in very different facets of what's happening. What I mean by this, well, let's say, for example, you recognize that the television, everything that you hear in the TV is practically a lie. Well, you don't believe the mainstream media, you don't watch TV. Well, we have other things that are going to gravitate you to the collective, to the program. And the Men Going Their Own Way movement is another program that is there to inactivate you, to castrate you as a man. And they're feeding off of your trauma vision, because you are traumatized. You are viewing the world from a traumatized point of view. Because you've been traumatized by women. Now your standpoint, which is, I'm going to make a generalization. The standpoint of the whole MGTOW movement, right, is that it is inherent in women's nature to be self-interested to the point that they don't care about anything else. I'm pretty sure I'm accurate when it comes to that. And then that's it. It stops there. You see, it doesn't delve deeper. And then you have these agents who prevent these traumatized males, and you could be a traumatized male for anybody, for you who may be watching this. You could have been lured by these Pied Pipers who speak very well, who are very verbose, have very good vocabulary, and they summate information. They put it in a way that it sounds very great. It sounds great, and a lot of the stuff is accurate, but yet within all that accuracy, they cast their spells. You see, they say these little poisonous things, and I've mentioned this in my previous videos, but I'm going to harp on this again. When a person tells you that women should crash and burn, which is what this user by the name Barbar has said, that's a red flag. That's a red flag, because that individual is not going deeper. Is not going further into what the causal factor is. It's just blaming women. It's just camping out. It's just saying, okay, well, this is what it is. Then there are other users who say, well, we shouldn't do anything. We should just sit back and just watch the economy implode on itself. What's the threat here? The threat here is that you don't resist, that you don't act, that you don't say, hey, wait a second, I'm going to take action and try to fix the problem, try to identify what the problem is. And if you're a man, if you're a male, and you're not getting into the essence of things, and you're not solving problems, then you're not operating as a man. Because as men, we get into the essence of things. We go deep into the essence of things. And this is represented in sexual intercourse and mating. When you're mating with a woman, the man goes deep inside her essence, goes deep inside the feminine principle, and from there, from going deep in her, he discovers her essence. And this is how men operate in the world. We get into the essence of things. We get into the root, into the causal factors of why things are happening, And by getting into the causal factors, then we could provide solutions that are built in unit, in love and understanding of what women represent in this world. And men and women, we're not in opposition. You see, this is another thing, part of the programming. that men are here, women are here. You see, there's many ways that this is done. You know, when we were kids, many of us were taught, well, you know, boys have cooties, girls have cooties, right? Um, Boys wear blue, women wear pink. What's another way that they did this? Oh, boys on one side, girls on another side. You see, the opposite sex, even in the language that we use, it reflects this dichotomy that we have created for ourselves when it comes to, you know, splitting ourselves off from one another. And from a metaphysical standpoint, what it is actually doing when you do subscribe to this is going for women as well. When you say, well, you know, men are pigs or men are jerks, or I want nothing to do with men, or for men who say, oh, women are inherently evil, I don't want anything to do with women, or I'm just going to sleep with them and then I'm going to disconnect from them. From a metaphysical standpoint, you are destroying that aspect in yourself, because we both have a masculine and feminine component to our own being, to our own consciousness. It's called the principle of gender. You know, there's always a masculine and feminine aspect in everything that we have. You know, a passive, receptive component, a creative component, an internal indwelling component, and then we have a dominant externalized component, which is the masculine, that actually externalizes things. You know, women and men have this. So when you say, well, you know, we're not going to deal with women, you're actually destroying the feminine principle in your own being, your ability to have holistic thinking, you know, to connect the dots, your ability to be creative, your ability to feel empathy, you know, to use your intuition. You see, and this is done deliberately, so that way, you know, both men and women are in war with each other, so that way they don't identify who the true enemy is. You see, because the true enemy knows this and wants you to continue to be fragmented, to be oppositional with other people who are trying to explain what's happening, oppositional with your complementary sex, which for men, that's women are a complementary sex. They're not an opposition to us. We are whole, you know. This is why there's been such a profound attack on the family institution in many levels, and the way to do it is by destroying male and female dynamics. You know, that men don't know how to relate to women, or women don't know how to relate to men, and the only way that men and women know how to relate to each other now is through physical, not through consciousness, not through intelligence, not through empathy, not through the heart, but just through the physical, just through the body, not through the spiritual or the intelligence of people. And this is why you see a high level of divorce rates. This is why you see many relationships just dwindle and die, because the foundation is not there. The formula is incorrect, because they've been programmed to have this mindset. And it's almost come to a point that it's become normalized now for men and women to be in arguments, for men and women to be dysfunctional. And it doesn't mean it doesn't need to be this way. It does not need to be this way. You know, let me tell you a story. Let me briefly digress here for a second and tell you a story. I was talking to a friend of mine. She's a woman. And I told her, you know, and she's in a very destructive dynamic with a man. I told her, you know, you don't need to be in this destructive dynamic with him. You know, you could have a positive relationship where there is no arguing and fussing. And her reaction to me when I said that was, there was a recoil. You see, in her mind, she couldn't even imagine this from happening. This was an impossibility. You see, the imagination has been taken away from people. The ability to create a better future, or a better present, really, has been taken away by all the programming. Because this is what we get in the media. This is what we get in the television. This is what we get in movies, right? I mean, you tell me, can anybody tell me a movie that doesn't have this war between the sexes? You know, that is purely based on personal refinement, you know, on refining yourself internally, and then you drawing into your own space another person of the complementary sex that is also refining themselves, and you join forces, you know, because the architects of deception, they understand the power that men and women have as individuals, but they also understand the power that men and women have if they, you know, if they became whole, you know, because nothing in this universe could stop a man and a woman who are whole with each other, who are conscious and who are aware. And this is what this movement, as far as many other movement, I was, you know, this video could go for the feminists as well. That, you know, that you need to understand this. It is not inherent in human beings to be evil. It is not inherent in human beings to be held as slaves. You know. You know. You know. Now that I mentioned slavery, when I mention slavery, what is the first thing that pops into your mind? You see, most people will probably think of an African American person, or black, you know, black person in chains, right? By a Caucasian person. But you know, that's not what tyranny is. That's not what slavery is. Slavery starts here. It starts in the mind first before it manifests into the physicality, into the material realm. You know, and there is still slavery going on this planet, and it's not biased to any particular race or sex. It is currently, the human race is entrenched in it right now. So this is a video that I wanted to make on that, and you need to, and I also wanted to say to the males out here that have been traumatized and that have been lured into this spider web, that you need to start building up your immunity towards this, and you need to start picking up on these little words that these people use, because they use it intentionally. I'm gonna go out as far as saying that these people have been put here to castrate these males. Because one thing that I noticed, because I did subscribe to MGTOW for at least maybe 3 months, many years back, a couple years back, yeah, like 2.5 years back. But I was like, oh yeah, this is good, this is true. But then something inside of me was telling me, no, there's something missing here. So I continued to do research. But one of the things that they've been doing is that they send these provocateurs to divide more people, you know, to divide people. It's, you know, to divide, you know, oh, men against women, or conspiracy theorists against, you know, non-conspiracy theorists. You see, it's always a divisive, it's always a fragmentation of people. And you need to be more aware of this stuff, and you need to stop looking at the world from your traumatized lenses. You need to heal yourself and understand that it's not in women's nature. Because if you look around, if you honestly look around, the males that are listening to this video, do women seem happy? I mean, let's face it. Do women honestly seem happy? I mean, a lot of the times when you go out there, and for the female viewers, you see a lot of the whore archetype, the short shorts, the yoga pants, right? I mean, these are patterns that need to be recognized. You know? It's not about personal refinement. It's not about refining your inner being. It's about how good do I look, you know? Which is just an aspect of the ego. For anybody who, I recommend reading the books of William Reich. He talks about this. He says that the actual, the outer skin and then the subcutaneous fat represents the ego. You know, so for the people who work out incessantly, and even for the women who work out that much, it represents that their ego is dominant. There's not a balance there between the true self and the ego. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video addressing this deception. I'm gonna in my future videos, I'm gonna start to make more videos more often now. They're not gonna necessarily be talking about MGTOW per se, but I will allude to some of these different deceptions that are out there. I'm gonna talk about the New Age deception, just so that way people begin to build their psychological immunity, which is something that people need to start looking at, because I see a lot of people talking about the Federal Reserve, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9/11 , 9 They talk about all these things externally, but they're not talking about psychology. They're not talking about consciousness. And until consciousness is actually brought into the equation, don't expect anything ever to change. So I'm going to be talking more about that. So because you need to start building your immunity towards what rights are and what wrong is, to what deceivers are and to what non-deceivers are, and hopefully you'll be able to build your intuition and your immunity, that you could be able to decipher and be able to discern for yourself. Hey, this guy, he's a fraud, or this guy, okay, let me pay attention to this guy. So thank you all for your attention, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.